My name is Eric Van Horn. I bought my first franchise in my 20s, and since then, I've owned 6 brands with 25 stores in 8 states. I've also helped 1,000 people find the right franchise for them. People like us who are not cut out for the 9 to 5 and like to work smarter, not harder. How do we find the right franchise, buy it, grow it, sell it, and how do we do it in a way to own the business without it owning us? Those are the questions, and I'm on a mission to give you the answers. Welcome to Franchise Secrets. Hey, welcome to the Franchise Secrets podcast. Eric Van Horn here with today's guest, Kevin Harrington. Kevin is the original shark from Shark Tank, has taken 20 companies, at least 20 companies, to 100 million or more in revenue. And he's our guest today in the middle of this coronavirus. And so I'm excited to get some Q&A with him and to dive in some of the things that we weren't even thinking about a month or two ago. So Kevin, welcome to the show.
Great to be here, Eric. Thank you so much. And yeah, it's some tough times, and people are hunkering down all over it. And it's good to be able to be virtually. I know we're at least 6 or 10 feet apart at this point, right?
Well, you said hunkering down. I think most people know you. I want to get into the hunkering down or double down, but for those few people that may not know who you are, why don't you give them just a little bit of who is Kevin Harrington? For those that are living under a rock.
Yeah, no problem. I mean, I think a serial entrepreneur. I started my first business. Well, let's see if I'm going to try to do the math. 45 years ago or so, something like that. It was actually 48 years ago. So I was 15 years old. I'm 63 today. So that today's not my birthday. But I'm an old entrepreneur. So I grew up in a Catholic Irish family in Cincinnati, Ohio. One of 6 kids. My dad was a bartender, and he saved up enough money to open Harrington's Irish Pub. And I started working in his places when I was 11. And by the time I turned 15, he said, "You need to own your own business, make your own money." He was paying me $1 an hour to work, and I was working a 40-hour week at 11 years old because I go after school and I work, all weekend. And so, the bottom line is I had a high school business sealing driveways. I got into college. I was installing air conditioning systems and furnaces because I started it from scratch my freshman year. Built that into what today would be a $5 million business while I was in college. Jeez. With 25 employees my junior year. So I'm going to school in the morning, get to the office at 2:00 in the afternoon, work till 10 o'clock at night. Was doing that for a couple of years until I finally said, I need to quit school and just be an entrepreneur. And that's when I was watching TV one day, and all of a sudden the screen went dark. And it was Discovery Channel. And I called the cable company and I said, I've got a technical problem with my TV. And they said, no, Discovery is only an 18-hour-a-day network. It goes dark 6 hours a day. And that's when the light bulb went off. I said, hey, can I put something in that 6-hour block and we can both make some money? I'll pay you to get distribution. They said, come on down. So I went down and met with Discovery, cut a deal. I tied up a 6-hour block on Discovery nationwide for a multi-year contract back in the early 80s. And I started putting in products and kitchen products, hardware products, Jack LaLanne's Juicer, Tony Little's Fitness, The Food Saver, George Foreman, you name it. I've been there. Billy Mays. We discovered Billy at the Philadelphia Home Show. Kim Kardashian called and said, I want you to do my first commercial. And we did 50 Cent's headphones and Hulk Hogan's cleaning product. And, bottom line, we've launched about 700 products, created 20 businesses that have grown to over $100 million each. And we've had some really fun times. Companies I've been involved with went public. So I've raised hundreds of millions of dollars. And by the way, the one thing that I forgot to mention is before all of this, I was in the franchising business. So, I helped companies sell franchises. I was a franchise broker. And so that's was at a time in my life when I was looking for business opportunities, and I started going to franchise shows. And then I'm like, wow, this is a cool industry. So I was in the franchising business for about 5 years also.
And you're
So
still in that business in some
yeah,
ways, right? I mean, you were advising.
yeah. So what we I found myself looking at different franchises. And I said, like one of the first ones I saw way back was California Closets. And
Mm.
Neil Balter was the founder of that. He started his own. He's like, he would go in and organize closets, and he called it California Closet. He opened one, then he opened two, and then he said, I want to franchise this. So I called him at the time and I said, hey, look, I'm back in Ohio. You're in California. If you have any leads, I can help you follow up on them here in the Midwest. So I became sort of a Midwest broker based in Cincinnati, Ohio. I travel 3 states, Ohio, Indiana, Kentucky, and meet one on one with people who were looking to buy a franchise. But somebody said, well, I like that California Closet, but it's not for me. I'm not a labor oriented person. What else do you have? So, oh, okay. So I ended up representing 30, 40, 50 companies, and I'd sell 50 of these, 100 of those. I was starting to really have some traction with different franchise companies. And so then we put a little team together of lawyers and operations people. So we would help franchise companies launch by writing their operations manuals, helping them with their legal work, and then selling the franchises was our specialty. So, and this was back in the late 70s, early 80s when I started doing that
So
also.
you're always looking at stuff. I mean, you have a business, you're involved in the industry, whatever it is, and then there's another revenue opportunity. There's another add-on, another bolt-on. I was watching you yesterday with our friend Roland Frazier, and Roland's a genius at this stuff.
Yeah.
All this bolt-on stuff. And I was actually on Roland's podcast, and we were talking about you. He's like, "Hey, Eric, I learned this from Kevin, and now I'm doing some of this other stuff." So like, what are you? So we're just to set the stage for people that are listening to this later, but we're like 2 weeks into the coronavirus.
Yeah.
People are like, businesses are shut down. If they're not shut down, they're going to be shut down, or customers are not coming in like they used to. At what point do I, or would you advise somebody, or are you going from hunkering down and like preserving cash to looking at opportunities? Because I just keep thinking, Kevin, there's going to be
Yeah.
opportunities, but I don't know what they are right now.
Right. Well, so my hunkering down, I live in St. Pete, Florida. We've got a little bit of an advantage here. We are, in not a complete lockdown. Golf courses are open. Socially distanced. Yesterday, I played golf. We walked the course. We stayed 6, 8 feet away from each other. You don't touch the pin. There's no
Yep.
rakes. You use your feet to clean the traps. And, so I can play golf and, I can work. But one of the things that I am doing right now is exactly what you and I are doing. I was on yesterday morning. I did an hour and a half with Mike Calhoun, a board of advisors. Then I did an hour with Roland. We're doing our time today. I'll be on my own podcast later today. Having a podcast with Sunil Tulsiani, who he had the Canadian Wealth Summit that was supposed to be last weekend in Toronto with me and Kevin Hart and Grant Cardone. And so Sunil and I are doing a Facebook Live this afternoon. And then later in the day, I'm with Greg Reed from Secret Knock. Just this is
Yes.
part of the process here, getting out there, letting people know that, I'm not, even though there's a hunker down, the hunker down is from a travel standpoint.
Mm-hmm.
I'm getting pitches and deals coming at me right and left because people do need help. They are in a little bit of trouble. And I say that there's some things that folks should be doing right now. I mean, when you get into a situation like this that kind of crept up on everybody before you knew it, and
Mm-hmm.
now you obviously travel is pretty difficult. Okay, and nobody wants to go to events. I was supposed to be in Dubai this weekend, Tel Aviv next weekend, and Calgary the weekend after that. So I do about 80 events a year, but now we're looking at how do we turn these into maybe more virtual type opportunities. Now, at
Mm-hmm.
the end of the day, once everybody's allowed to travel again, I think the events are gonna be coming back in grand style for sure. I mean, I'm already many things didn't get canceled; they just got postponed. So I think in the meantime, though, I said to and I don't know if I said this in Roland's or in some of the other programs I was talking to. Now is the time to take a look at all your assets. Take a look. I mean, maybe you got a nice home and maybe you don't need cash, but get a line of credit.
Mm-hmm.
Okay. I mean, because if and maybe the line of credit you might need to pay your expenses for some folks, maybe the line of credit can maybe be something. If somebody came to you and said, if I got 100,000 today and I could buy some inventory of sanitizers and I can turn it within that whole order within 2 to 4 weeks, and your 100 can turn into 300. You might want to think about investing that 100
Yep.
if it's somebody that you can trust. So, I mean, these are the kinds of things coming to me because even though the world is on semi shutdown, QVC is still going 24 hours a day. HSN is still going 24 hours a day. We have companies that are blowing huge quantities of sales in stores that are still open. Walmart and CVS and Rite Aid and Target and many of the stores that we have products in are still just blowing some big numbers. We have some companies whose sales are doubling right now. So it's not all gloom and doom for everybody. So anyway, I take the opportunities slower right now because there are some scams out there you got to be careful with too. But I do think I look at this. I call it it's a bell-shaped curve. You get all this coronavirus. It's going to hit a
Mm-hmm.
point where now we're on the backside, and what they say, flatten the curve, get it to peak quicker, and then die sooner. And that's what they're trying to do. And I think that in the next coming weeks, we'll have a lot more information on where it all sits. But in the meantime, get on, call your mentor if you have one.
Mm-hmm.
If you don't, get one. Okay. And by the way, I have mentors, and I've been talking to them.
That's what I was just going to ask you because, like, where are you getting advice from? I don't get my advice from the news. I don't, like, I have mentors. I have smart people that are much smarter than me, and they've been through more than I've been through. I mean, I've got 20 years in franchising, but that's nothing compared to what a lot of people have. So, who are you going to? Like, who are your mentors? You don't have to name them by name, but like when you seek out advice in this environment where we're kind of in uncharted territories, I'm sure you have a lot of people going to you, but who do you go to?
I'm talking to I have finance mentors, legal mentors. My legal mentors are asking, okay, do you have things protected right now?
Mm-hmm.
There's a lot of crazy people out there, people that rant and rave about suing and I'm going to do this. And I mean, like, it's so crazy that sometimes even people, like we have different clients in different places. And when things get tough is when you see people start turning into evil folks. And so,
true.
You got to protect yourself. You got to button things up. You need, and one of the things I think I mentioned the other day is we used to run all of our products through one company, one LLC, and one merchant account. Well, if one of those products is causing a problem with returns, then it can affect your whole company. But if you isolated these companies, so this is the kind of advice I got from lawyers years ago, but it's now saving me right now because we do have some issues with certain products that people bought. Now they're returning and they want their money back. That's fine. We'll give you your money back. But if that causes a problem at your bank, it can put you out of business.
It's not easy in the front end to set some of this protection up because it's accounting, more accounting work, more money for your accountant spending that, legal stuff. and it can even be clumsy when you're doing it. But the reason you're not doing it for the ease of doing it, it'd be easy just to have everything under one LLC. But when you have things segmented, you have walls of protection around each of your business. Now is the time where you're grateful that you did all that. No, that's great advice.
Absolutely, absolutely, and so I just think that what you and I are doing right now is smart because we're putting messaging out
Mm-hmm.
to our people and other people, and I can send our interview around to some of our social also,
That's
and
right.
and so it's people are because they're home, they're watching more podcasts, they're getting more motivated that things are going to come to an end here on the lockdown. And by the way, Eric, where do you live?
I'm in South Dakota and I have businesses all over.
Okay, so you're probably not dealing with tremendous issues there of
No.
being able to get out and around. And are your restaurants still open and
I
stuff?
have some fitness my health and diet centers are open. My fitness facilities are closed.
Right.
And I'm getting feedback, Kevin. People that are in the fitness world right now, they're telling me, and the beauty. So fitness and beauty, they're terrified right now.
Yeah.
And they're just not open. And they weren't prepared for they just mentally prepared for this, or they're having like mental breakdowns in a way. And
Yeah.
they're calling me, texting me, emailing me saying, I just might give up. I'm either can, and I'm like, no, you don't, you double down now. And because if your business is worth half of what it was, either you have a choice to like take a loss or double down. And it's not that simple, but like what's your mentality going into an environment like this? If you were in an industry that took a hit and it's 50% of what it was before.
It's funny. My wife's sister was in town a couple weeks ago, and she's a hairdresser. And so she's like, she got a phone call while she was here 2 weeks ago. Hey, we're closed starting Monday in New York, right? And she just freaked out because she lives week to week,
Mhm.
and she's like, what am I going to do? And so my initial thought was, and you got to be safe, right? But
Mhm.
so I said, I don't know if the salon owner would allow you to, on a one-off basis, continue to service people not in the salon but somewhere else. Now,
Mhm.
that you're obviously, if you're cutting hair, you're not going to be 6 feet away, so you got to think about that. But like my wife's personal trainer gym closed down, but now he's gone to another place, scrubbed it, got it all good. He now has tested, said I'm negative, and I'm going to work with a few select people that are not sick and in a trusting situation. So he's probably picked up maybe 50% of his business, but not at his old gym. It's in a different facility, et cetera, et cetera. So I think people that are in that kind of service business have a little more of a challenge because technically they shouldn't even be doing that. But I mean, my first thought, you can't give virtual haircuts, okay? But you can do virtual training, right?
Mhm.
So in terms, I think what's happening right now with many people is they're being forced to think of how can we connect with people without having to attend face-to-face type situations.
Yep.
So much more. I think podcasting industry is going to be blowing up. I think virtual summits. I mean, I've been
Mhm.
invited to 2 dozen virtual summits in the last couple of weeks, and I can't do all of them, but I am doing many of them. Just like, I mean, I think I got 5 today. So there's a lot of great things, and so now every time I do one of those, connections are coming back for new things, and
Yep.
you just got to keep your eyes and ears open, right?
What do you think? So I've been getting a lot of franchisors reaching out to me wanting advice because I'm really connected to the franchisee world. I'm starting a franchise as a franchisor. Franchisors are coming to me wanting help with their sales and their processes and franchise development. And what do you suggest for someone like me that has expertise in a specific area? and franchisors wanting to bring me on the board of advisors, giving some equity or like a retainer. Like, what advice, if I came to you as a mentor and asked, like, what should I be doing? What would you, what advice would you give me?
Well, I mean, first of all, I like that model of equity and a retainer. I mean, that's a no-brainer. If you can get those kind of deals, that's very powerful. And so, I mean, my own business model, I invest in businesses, but I can only invest in so many. I mean, I was trying to keep a pace of about one investment a week, but I can't even find qualified deals to make one a week. So let's say I do 25 investments a year, but I'm getting thousands. So what happens is I'll turn things down. They'll come back and say, look, I don't, I need money, but if you join me, I can give you equity and even maybe a consulting fee. So in many ways, I do something similar, but I think, it's very interesting that we're talking about this because I think it was probably 18 months ago or so, a guy came to me in the franchising business and he said, I want to launch a virtual franchise show, like a trade show. And he did launch it. And I honestly, this is about 18 months ago, so I don't even remember what happened with it, but he was driving traffic where people could come in. And if you wanted to go into somebody's booth, a franchisor, and look at that franchise, you could get invited in and then have information on a particular franchise. And so, have you seen anything like this?
Yeah, I know a lot of different people that are starting to do different things. I think there's a lot of pivoting going on in the way people sell franchises. I know there's the big broker community. I'm part of that, but I think things are going to start shifting. I also see resales as being much more important. And I see that as a way that franchisees are going to scale is through resales. And I'm working on something to be that matchmaker and not even get any money out of it, but just to matchmake these franchisees that want to expand with different franchises by buying out existing, because nothing else is out there like that. There's not a place for them to go. And so I'm trying to work on something like that. So people that I could just matchmake them and just do it to help.
Yeah. I mean, I had something called the Franchise America TV show, and it was an infomercial. And I featured three franchisors. They got 10 minutes each in a 30-minute infomercial. I interviewed them. We rolled some video. We had testimonials of people that had bought franchises, and I was generating hundreds of thousands of leads. So they paid a per lead fee. And maybe this is something you and I could explore, Eric. It was a really cool format. And the folks that used it, we sold literally thousands of franchises through this format over a period of about 5 years. This was back in my franchise day. So we were lead generation was what we were doing there, and of course that's ultimately what franchisors are looking for, is interested parties that want to buy a franchise.
100%. Well, I know we're at a hard stop. I want to respect that. I thank you for coming on, Kevin. I know that we've had some internet issues over the time, so I really appreciate it, and I'm going to follow up with you on that idea that we have.
Let's do that, Eric. I really appreciate it. Glad that we finally got together, and keep the hunkering down in South Dakota there. I'll do the same in St. Pete, but I'll be out on the golf course this weekend. So I'll keep my distance. All right, buddy. Thanks so much. Take care. Bye-bye.
Thanks for listening to this episode of the Franchise Secrets Podcast. Whether you're watching or listening, please make sure to subscribe to my YouTube channel and to whatever channel you're listening on. If you want my help with anything from buying a franchise to franchising your business, please visit franchisesecrets.com.